it is morally wrong and flat out stupid. It was an insane nightmare. We screwed the pooch 6 ways to Sunday and made so many mistakes, it's embarrassing. So that was a staggeringly dumb decision. We were huge idiots and we're totally wrong. Just a flat out burning dumpster fire of stupidity, I would say, was the beginning of the company. And what I see with some of these new car companies is that they're jumping in at the deep end and trying to create a high volume vehicle when they've never made a vehicle before. This is like not practicing your athletic sport and then going to the Olympics. You're not going to win. This is crazy. I think zero about demand generation and a lot about production and engineering and supply chain. I do think that it was not correct to ban Donald Trump. I think that was a mistake. But my opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have perma bans. I think it was a morally bad decision, to be clear, and foolish in the extreme. It's roughly equally difficult to have gotten to this point as it will be to get to 20 million. I want to be very clear about this. All of Earth can easily be powered by solar and wind, stationary battery packs, and electric transport. You could do 10 times what Earth's economy is with solar, wind, batteries, and electric transport. And I have utter contempt for those who prefer the perception of good over the reality of it. So we're just going to take the heat. We will do the right thing and get sued. Scooters are very dangerous. I would not recommend anyone drive a scooter. If there's ever an argument between a scooter and a car, the scooter will lose. There's some probability that Tesla will do a smaller car than the Model 3. We've got one of the best advanced materials teams in the world. A lot of people on that team were willing to join, but only if they could work on both rockets and cars. And so it was like, great, let's do that. To the best of my knowledge, the future of Tesla is incredibly bright, and I think we will throw off a tremendous amount of free cash flow.
Do you think you could ever go a step further and actually buy a mining company in the future?
It's not out of the question.
In this video, I've painstakingly put together a supercut of Elon Musk's latest interview, cutting out the silences, literally 15 minutes worth, the ums and ahs, the canned responses, just getting to the meat and bones of what was said. Because I know not everyone has 80 minutes to spare to watch the full interview. If you're a Tesla stock investor, this interview is essential viewing. So too if you happen to own stocks of any legacy automotive manufacturers or electric vehicle startups. If you appreciate the video, you can support the channel by picking up some merch or joining Patreon with the links in the description. Enjoy.
It was an insane nightmare. We screwed the pooch 6 ways to Sunday and made so many mistakes, it's embarrassing. Almost everything about the first design of the Tesla Roadster was wrong and wouldn't work. First of all, we had no idea how to build a car. And then no one really knew how to build, a commercial lithium-ion battery car. No one had ever done it. In retrospect, it would have actually been much smarter to start with a clean sheet design and not try to modify the Elise, because we ended up with a lot of the limitations of the Elise, but almost nothing to gain in terms of reuse of parts. So that was a staggeringly dumb decision. So what I'm saying is that we were huge idiots and we're totally wrong about the fundamental premises of creating the Tesla Roadster. Just a flat out burning dumpster fire of stupidity, I would say, was the beginning of the company. We had to recover from there, and it was very difficult.
And if there's one piece of advice that you could offer to the various EV startups, what would it be?
I mean, I think most of them just completely forget about the first 8 to 10 years of Tesla. That's the kind of amazing part to me. They kind of see success and then they're like, oh, that looks good, let's do that, copy that. But it was brutal confusion and tons of mistakes and a lot of money invested for a lot of years. I personally think it's a lot actually harder today, even still, for a startup to compete, because the first question is sort of what is the niche that even makes sense to have a new startup EV company relative to all the products from other OEMs or to Tesla? What are they going to do better than Tesla? Tesla didn't exist. There was no Tesla in the world 17 years ago. So that was sort of the imperative and gave a runway to make a lot of mistakes and still make it work.
And what I see with some of these new car companies is that they're jumping in at the deep end and trying to create a high volume vehicle when they've never made a vehicle before. This is like not practicing your athletic sport and then going to the Olympics. You're not going to win. This is crazy. I'm confident that we will be able to sell all the cars we can make. I mean, currently the lead time for ordering a Tesla is ridiculously long. So our issue is not demand, it is production. We're actually probably going to limit or just stop taking orders for anything beyond a certain period of time, because some of the timing is like a year away. Basically, I think zero about demand generation and a lot about production and engineering and supply chain.
Are you planning to let Donald Trump back on?
Well, I think there's a general question of should Twitter have permanent bans? And I've talked with Jack Dorsey about this, and he and I are of the same mind, which is that permanent bans should be extremely rare and really reserved for accounts that are bots or spam scam accounts, where there's just no legitimacy to the account at all. I do think that it was not correct to ban Donald Trump. I think that was a mistake, because it alienated a large part of the country and did not ultimately result in Donald Trump not having a voice. He is now going to be on Truth Social, as will a large part of the right in the United States. And so I think this could end up being, frankly, worse than having a single forum where everyone can debate. I guess the answer is that I would reverse the perma ban. I would say I don't own Twitter yet, so this is not like a thing that will definitely happen, because what if I don't own Twitter? But my opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have perma bans. Now that doesn't mean that somebody gets to say whatever they want to say. If they say something that is illegal or otherwise destructive to the world, then there should be perhaps a timeout, a temporary suspension, or that particular tweet should be made invisible or have very limited traction. But I think perma bans just fundamentally undermine trust in Twitter as a town square where everyone can voice their opinion. I think it was a morally bad decision, to be clear, and foolish in the extreme. If there are tweets that are wrong, they should, and bad, those should be either deleted or made invisible, and a temporary suspension is appropriate, but not a permanent ban.
So if the deal completes, he might potentially come back on, but with the understanding that if he does something similar again, he'll be back in the sin bin.
He has publicly stated that he will not be coming back to Twitter, and that he will only be on Truth Social. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, which is perhaps not getting across, is that banning Trump from Twitter didn't end Trump's voice. It will amplify it among the right. And this is why it is morally wrong and flat out stupid. The 20 million by 2030 is an aspiration, not a promise. And people will see, based on the products that we unveil, will be able to judge for themselves whether that goal is realistic or not. The sheer amount of stuff that Tesla's done is, I think, quite mind-boggling. We have an incredible team at Tesla executing very well, and our annual growth rates are faster than any large manufactured product in the history of Earth. It's roughly equally difficult to have gotten to this point as it will be to get to 20 million. I want to be very clear about this. All of Earth can easily be powered by solar and wind, stationary battery packs, and electric transport. Even if Earth's economy were to You could do 10 times what Earth's economy is with solar, wind, batteries, and electric transport. Our calculation of the amount of area of the batteries needed to store all the energy to power the United States was roughly 1 square mile.
How long do you think you're likely to stay at Tesla?
As long as that can be useful. I think we should be able to, maybe get Starship to Mars uncrewed in 3 to 5 years. I think if that's successful, then we may be able to send a crewed mission to Mars before the end of the decade. And we can easily whip out a prototype of any kind of car you could possibly imagine with a small team in 6 months. We have a team of 100 people in 6 months. Now, to bring that to fruition with high volume production is 10,000 people in 2 years, and that's 3 times faster than the rest of industry. I don't think you need full human level intelligence to drive a car. You need sufficient human level intelligence to drive a car, but not, you don't need like deep conceptual understanding of esoteric concepts or anything like that. You need sufficient intelligence to match what human neural nets do when driving a car. And I think anyone who's driven a car for any length of time, once you have some years of experience driving a car, the cognitive load on driving a car is not high. You're able to think about other things, listen to music, have a conversation, and still drive safely. Now, at this point, I think we are no longer trapped in a local maximum. Obviously, I could be wrong, but I think we are actually quite close to achieving self-driving at a safety level that is better than human. And it appears, my best guess is that we will get there this year. We're really not far from it. In the grand scheme of things, what is the morally right decision? And I'm a strong believer in doing the reality of good over the perception of good. And I have utter contempt for those who prefer the perception of good over the reality of it. So we're just going to take the heat. If we believe that the probability of injury is reduced, and we are very confident of that, but we also know that we're going to be sued despite doing the right thing, we will do the right thing and get sued. Scooters are very dangerous. I would not recommend anyone drive a scooter. If there's ever an argument between a scooter and a car, the scooter will lose. There's some probability that Tesla will do a smaller car than the Model 3, but I wouldn't say more than that. The regular car industry, the traditional car makers, they may be interested in licensing is Tesla Autopilot full self-driving, and I think that would save a lot of lives. We have to prove ourselves for, I don't know, maybe another year or so, and then perhaps there will be some other car makers who may wish to license Tesla Autopilot, and we'd be very open to that. Well, I think the company making the most progress besides Tesla is actually VW, which is not a startup, but could be viewed in some ways as a startup from an electric vehicle standpoint. So VW is doing the most on the electric vehicle front. I think there will be some very strong companies coming out of China. There's just a lot of super talented, hardworking people in China that are strongly believe in manufacturing. But they won't just be burning the midnight oil, they'll be burning the 3 a.m. oil. So they won't even leave the factory type of thing. Whereas in America, people are trying to avoid going to work at all.
Is there a risk that you lose the pickup segment to Ford, GM and Rivian if you don't launch the Cybertruck or get it to market soon?
No.
Good.
We have more orders for the Cybertruck than we could possibly fulfill for 3 years after start of production. In the past, where I was sort of upset with lockdowns is where those lockdowns differentially affected Tesla, but not others. In the case of California and the Bay Area counties specifically, every other car factory in North America was allowed to start, but not Tesla, even though there was no basis for that. It was simply because we were located in Alameda County in California. But they had no rational, it was arbitrary and unfair. That's the reason for why we're quite upset about kind of Tesla being singled out as the only car company in America that wasn't allowed to start, even though I think our healthcare practices are probably better than anyone else. Well, Tesla is, I think, as much a software company as it is a hardware company. You know, I personally wrote software for 20 years, so I have great respect and admiration for software engineering. I think it's incredibly important, and I think that's why Tesla's been able to recruit some of the world's best software engineers, is because we value software engineering so highly and do not regard it as an afterthought. You know, our Autopilot full self-driving AI team is incredibly talented and some of them are the smartest software engineers in the world. And I do not give compliments lightly. We have an incredible team. We have the best real-world AI team on earth. And we're seeing more and more incredibly talented people join our team. And we're really not seeing anyone else being close to solving real-world AI. They may exist, but if so, they're being very subtle about it. You know, we know who a lot of the top people are in AI and what they're doing, and we just don't see anyone else that we're aware of making any significant progress in real-world AI apart from Tesla. I am quite confident that we will not merely maintain our software lead, but increase it.
Do you think you'll ever wrap all your various operations, Tesla, SpaceX, etc., under one umbrella group, or do you want to keep them separate for the time being?
I think they're sort of separate objectives with different shareholder bases. You know, I don't see a ton of merit in combining them. At times there are people, you know, where we have some, say, very talented people who actually are willing to join, but they want to do things both at SpaceX and Tesla. So, for example, we've got one of the best advanced materials teams in the world. It might be the best, but it's certainly one of the best. A lot of people on that team were willing to join, but only if they could work on both rockets and cars. And so it was like, great, let's do that. And so we can sort of share some of the ideas between rockets and cars, which are obviously not competitive. You know, they're not different competitive segments. There are just a few cases where we can recruit some of the smartest, you know, engineers, scientists, technologists in the world, but they want to work on both rockets and cars. And there's a few cases like that. Well, I like the idea of VTOLs, but we already have VTOLs in the form of a helicopter. But the problem with going 3D in the air is that you now have things that make a lot of noise, and the wind force that they generate when taking off or landing is very high. I think it would be very scary to most people to realize just how many things have to get solved on a real-time basis for the company to to function well. Just last night, I basically got no sleep. I was literally working all night, just Sunday through Monday. I think the future of Tesla is extremely strong. So Tesla has no debt. It has a lot of cash, and there's a sort of a short-term hiccup with the COVID restrictions in Shanghai. To the best of my knowledge, the future of Tesla is incredibly bright, and I think we will throw off a tremendous amount of free cash flow.
Supercapacitors, do you think they have potential as an alternative energy storage solution to lithium-ion batteries?
To cut a long story short, I think capacitors are not needed at all for electrification of the entire auto industry.
Do you think you could ever go a step further and actually buy a mining company in the future?
It's not out of the question. We will address whatever the limitations are on accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. It's not that we wish to buy mining companies, but if that's the only way to accelerate the transition, then we will do that. There are no arbitrary limitations on what's needed to accelerate sustainable energy. We'll just tackle whatever set of things are needed to accelerate sustainable energy, and doing mining and refining or buying a mining company, provided we think we can change that mining company's trajectory significantly, are possibilities. Yeah.
Hydrogen is also very abundant in the universe.
In the universe, but not on Earth.
Not on Earth. Have you ever do you think that it has a role to play if we really want to accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels?
No.
Hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this supercut of highlights from Elon Musk's latest interview. If you appreciate this, they are a lot of work. You can support the channel by picking up some merch, links in description, or more importantly, joining Patreon. You'll gain instant access to well over 100 exclusive videos, plus my up-to-date Tesla stock price targets, loads of exclusive content and perks, so I'll see you over there. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan, this is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel, and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.